Hello, my name is Paul Nix. I'm the founder of the Time Repair Corporation, and this is Zero to Civ. If you're watching this, then you should be tuning in for the student workshop on the sustainable future and the related workshop on building your own sustainability project. I'll be taking you through 3 lessons, the first of which is human needs. I'll be getting that started right away. But before I start, I want you to consider a question. What is needed for human civilization? Go ahead and take a minute. Think this out. Think about human needs. Think about the animals and plants that we rely on. Think about our emotional needs, what we need to be able to create, to do our jobs, to function. What is it that's really needed to bring all of those together and build something greater than just a local community, to build civilization? Now I want you to change the way you look at that question a little bit. I want you to address the same aspects that you came up with on your own. And I want you to think about time. Think about what you would need if you wanted to make that civilization, that perfect world that you've built, last. Take some time and think about that as well. Because effectively, that is what sustainability is. You're looking at how you utilize resources over time to meet needs. This is effectively what engineers do, what scientists do, to some degree, what historians and artists do. They address human needs and they look at our history in order to find those answers. By the end of this, I hope that you will be taking a much more active approach and doing a lot of the same things. So let's get started with the student workshop, Sustainable Future, Session 1, Human Needs. Now, if you want to get started thinking about our overall needs, one of the best places that you can go to really understand the full spectrum of sustainability is to look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. You can see them listed here, and if you ever want to look them up, it's very easy. Just do a search for UN SDGs, and you'll find them very quickly. But as you can see from this list, a lot of these different aspects relate to human needs. First off, poverty, hunger, health, education, equality. These are all social needs and social constructs in many cases. These are things that we need to be able to do in order to make sure that every person feels like they belong and that they can contribute to their society. Because we never know who among us is going to be that next potential genius, the one who could come up with something that could quite literally change the way that we live our lives on this planet. And it is absolutely essential, if we're going to have a just and equitable world, for that world to have addressed these issues. Now, when you move on past Goal 6, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, these are also linked to people, and they are just as important to really making sure that people have the opportunities that they need. If you've got to go an incredible distance just to get your daily water needs filled, then you're not necessarily having the same sort of advantages and the same sort of opportunities to put into creative pursuits, to put into problem solving and solutions that others might have. And meeting those needs, those are things that can be done with more and more innovative solutions as time goes on. Being able to reach out and find specific solutions for these problems is something that more people across the planet are putting effort and energy into. So if you're someone who has those specific needs or wants to contribute to solving those specific problems, these UN SDGs give you a starting point. You can start doing searches on the specific sustainability issues that matter to you, either because of your own needs or because of your own interests. If you want to make sure that everyone can enjoy clean water and sanitation, there are projects across the planet that can be interacted with. If you're worried about plastics in the ocean, there are projects that can be interacted with. If what you care about is the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, that's fine. There are projects in which you can connect remotely to those different scientists, to those different groups, and start building something for the future. Whether it's for your own community or for another part of the world, there's nothing that should stop you from getting started. And we'll be going over that in the actual workshop component of this project, where you'll be making your own sustainability project. But right now we're still looking at the different issues that can be thought of as sustainability concerns and issues. So continuing on, decent work and economic growth is partially linked to what we need in an individual community, but also partially linked to economy and industry. If you look at industry, innovation, and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, and sustainable cities and communities, this is all done at the industry level, along with responsible consumption and production. This is what we can do when we're, for example, voting for our representation, when we're taking part in local businesses or in community projects and goals. These are the things that will provide at that level of society. And when we look at the last section, which is climate action, life below the water and life on land, effectively you have the air, the sea, and the land, and the ecosystems and environment that exist in them. By addressing these, we can make sure that our long-term access to resources is sustained and maintained for future generations. Of course, peace, justice, and strong institutions are also connected to group 9 through 12, where you have societal goals and impacts. Number 17 is talking about something specific, though, partnerships for the goals. It's talking about how sometimes when you try to fix one thing, for example, hunger, you can end up impacting some of the other things. For example, life on land. If you make all of your land into farming area, then you can impact natural cycles. We have to be able to find ways to meet these goals without damaging our project in other areas. And that seems huge. It seems very complex and frustrating in some ways because it's bigger than we are. These are problems that are absolutely massive and at a global scale, but that does not make them insurmountable. And we're going to be talking about why that is. But first, I want you to have a look at this image. These are the same goals we just discussed, but they've been set up in rings, basically divided the way that I told you. One ring, the biosphere, contains the goals that link to life. One ring, for society, that basically touches on the basic human rights, the needs of individuals in order to be productive and in order to be unafraid to put their time and energy into solving problems. Next is the economy, which are the larger societal concerns, the places where we need to, as larger and interconnected communities, put energy into making sure that businesses do their part and that we have opportunities, not just for communities and businesses, but for other groups as well, to participate in this project as active components. And finally, the thing interconnecting all of these wheels, running right down the middle like an axle, that is number 17, the partnerships for the goals. So effectively, with any one of these wheels, if you can start turning one of them, putting energy into those projects, then momentum from that spinning wheel can start to move into the other wheels. That's why those partnerships are so important. And this is something that really demonstrates the interconnectedness of those different issues. So no matter what sustainability means to you, and it can mean any number of things, whatever issue is closest to your heart, that's where you should be working. But you should be able to stretch outside of yourself and involve your community, and also to work with groups worldwide who care about those exact same issues. If you're effectively on the ground or at the front lines of these issues, then we absolutely need to hear from you, whether it's by short videos, cell phone calls, video meetings, which can be done worldwide in the time of COVID. There are opportunities to start really making progress on these things and involving people on the other side of the planet who want to do something but don't know how best to make an impact. This is where that project creation becomes something much greater than it would be otherwise. And this is where you, students, have an incredible power. We can see from the global climate strikes that have been occurring that students have an amazing ability to start influencing the world around them, whether they understand it or not. And it's about taking action, taking some concrete steps. So this is part of what we'll be going after today. But in order to get to that, we have to start addressing some of those societal needs first. Effectively, we need to start by looking at our emotional health and what motivates us. We're going to dig into our motivations and what makes us tick, what makes us a little bit different from everyone around us, and why those differences are valuable. So let's go ahead and get ourselves started here by asking some simple questions. Emotional health in and of itself is not something that people necessarily always pay attention to. My own background and my own passion is engineering. And for me, tackling a topic like emotional health can be a little iffy because you don't always have clear data, clear measurements that you can take in order to look at things objectively. But through studies that have been done in improving people's environment and opportunities and general overall emotional well-being, we've actually seen that there are benefits like higher resistance to addictions, both physical and mental, benefits for one's actual physical health that can come from an emotional state of being, state of mind. You can actually see that people who are happier, people who are better balanced and adjusted emotionally, will actually benefit physically and be better at resisting disease. There are also, of course, benefits for self-esteem. And according to studies, not only are you less likely to be a victim of bullying, but you're also less likely to become a bully if you are emotionally healthy. There are also, of course, the bonuses that you get for motivation, because it's a lot easier to tackle the things that you want to do, the things that matter, when you understand the things that matter to you, your emotional health, and how to interact with your world and one another. So let's get to those questions I have. And these are questions that I ask people when I'm interviewing them to participate in a project. These are questions that I ask myself on a regular basis and that have helped me to shape my own projects. The first question: if you had an infinite amount of resources, all the money that you would need so that you effectively would never have to work a job for the rest of your life, what would you do with your time? That's the real first question. And you can take a second to think about it. Someone contacts you from a law firm and they say that someone, a weird uncle or distant relation, has left all the money that you and your family would ever need. You won't have to worry about it ever again. What do you want to do? Do you want to cook food? Do you want to tell stories? Do you want to interact? Do you want to build a business? Do you want to do anything at all? And there are no wrong answers. So take your time and think about it. Maybe ask the question of a friend so that the two of you can compare answers. Because there's no mirror quite as good as a good friend. What you're actually saying with the answer is, this is what I value and like about myself. You're saying, I am a storyteller. I am someone who nourishes the people around me. I am someone who builds. I am someone who plans, all of these aspects of you are valuable. And that can help to really focus the way you want to work in the world. So asking this question again every day can give you further strength by allowing you to dig into what you love about who you are as a person. So ask it regularly. What would you do if you could do anything at all? That's the first question. The next question: if you were suddenly approached by an alien or a genie or anything at all that could instantly teach you everything that there was to know in the universe about any one subject, what would you choose to learn about? That's the second question. And again, take your time. The answer might be different on a different day of the week, but that's okay. If you could instantly download all of that information into your head about psychology, the way people communicate, about aeronautics, about mathematics, whatever it is that you'd want to know about, that's important. It tells you what is worth your time. Now, people say that time is money, and it's a common phrase in English, but time is much more valuable. Money can come and go during a lifetime, many times, but your time is something that you never get back. So how you use that time is extremely important. Games are worthwhile. They're important. They're simulations. Playtime, absolutely vital, even for adults. One should always take the time for sports and for play and for just simple enjoyment of life, a little creativity. But what you choose to learn about, what you choose to read about, that's up to you. And that's something incredibly valuable. Any time that you spend watching a commercial is effectively time that you've given away to a company. And there's no reason to do that if you don't want to. So choose what you're going to do with your time. If you have access to resources that can let you learn about a subject, and most of us do, one way or another, if there's something, and I don't care how specific or detailed it is, start reaching out through libraries, through adults you know, through online resources. Find out how you can continue to develop your knowledge about that subject that you chose, and you will be using your time effectively. Any little bit that you can learn one day, maybe 5 or 10 minutes of your own time, digging into chaos theory, digging into genetics, digging into forensic science, digging into anything at all, auto mechanics, green energy. There's no reason to stop yourself because you have an incredible capacity to learn and to shape the world around you. But part of that takes finding out what matters to you and making that the way you learn. So, question number 2, what it means is what is worth your time. The last question, and this is a big deal because this is effectively a question all of us have to answer during our lifetimes. Whether we choose to answer it, whether we're brave enough to, that's difficult. So, I want you all to imagine that you've come to the end of a long project that you've been working on, maybe for school, maybe for your community, and it's gone well and you're happy with how it's gone. And you're stretching and just really happy with where you are in life. And at that moment, you feel a tightness in your chest. And then suddenly you can see yourself falling to the ground and growing smaller as you drift away into the sky. You can see your town, your community shrinking down as well. And soon the entire planet shrinking into a beautiful blue marble floating in space among the stars. And you realize that you're no longer a part of things on that world. But before you ascend or reincarnate or poof out of existence or whatever it is that comes next, at this moment, looking down at that world that you're no longer a part of, you can change one thing, big or small, abstract or concrete, about the world that you've left behind. What is it that you would choose to change? And feel free to take your time answering. Again, talk to friends. Ask the same question. What is it that is so important that it's the change you would want the sum of your life to make? Is it some form of equality? Fighting for different freedoms and opportunities for people? Is it an end to war? It could be anything linked to any one of those social and sustainability development goals. It could be something very specific, just that you want everyone to be able to see bugs the way that you do, because you see a beauty in insects that they haven't. They're just creeped out, maybe. It could be anything at all, but whatever it is that you would change about the world, about the hearts of the people around you, that is a very important answer, because that answers the lifelong question, the oldest philosophical question of what matters in life. What is worth changing with the sum of your life? So that answer, what will you change? If you know how you best interact with the world by knowing what are you, if you know what you want to change about the world, and if you know what you want to learn about, you can combine those three answers. And maybe parts of them will change from day to day, from week to week. That's just fine. It's always important, no matter how old you get, no matter what kind of a student you are, to keep growing and learning and changing, because that's what education is really about. It's not about grades. It's not about opportunities later in life. It's about learning how you learn as a person, so that you can use that to benefit your community, your family, your country, your world, because all of us are in the same boat and we're all connected. By knowing this, you'll know exactly who you are and how to reach out beyond yourself to other people. And by answering these questions, you will be closer to a higher degree of emotional health, which can help you to help others. The next thing I want to talk about is the power of small steps, little changes, because none of us are very big in the scale of the universe. And the problems that we're looking at are big. Some of them are problems that have been building up for generations. They make us afraid. That's part of why I founded this company, and part of why I'm creating these open source educational materials, is so that people don't have to be as afraid of the future. And the key step to fighting fear is empowerment. Seeing that the little changes that you can make have cumulative impact. Now, what does that mean? Cumulative impact. Take a second, answer out loud. I'm here listening. What does it sound like? Cumulative impact. What you're talking about is not the effect that you have when you do a whole bunch of something one day really quickly and then stop. It's the effect you have when you do a little bit of something every day for a year, and then look at how much you've done in total. For example, if every day you were to collect a little bit of plastic waste that you found around, and as you collected more and more of it, you made some kind of project out of it, ideally using it as a raw material, but maybe even just using it as a way to bring attention to a lack of infrastructure. When you gather all that plastic trash, where does it go? If it has no place to go, then it'll just end up right back out where it started. But by starting to change the way people look at it, at the amount of it, you can change the way people treat it, and you can get energy, attention, and resources that can build those infrastructures. This reflects on a concept called modularity. Now, modularity is effectively making a very small solution for something that you can repeat over and over and over and build on, using those as building blocks for something much greater. Now, if you can create solutions that are modular, they can be repeated by lots of different people over and over, and you can have a huge cumulative impact. And this is where it gets powerful. Once you see that everyone in your community participates once a day doing something small, suddenly it's much bigger than just the modularity and cumulative impact of you alone. Now you have something really powerful. But how do you build that up? And how do you build up that support? That's part of what we're going to be talking about. And part of what I want each of you to reach out and start discovering for yourselves, to start asking questions about, because there's nothing more powerful than a question. I want each of you to start digging into the problem that matters to you, how you can find a way to solve it, even in a small way, and then start asking questions. And if, for example, an adult, a business person, a community leader comes back with a problem with what you've proposed, what you've outlined, that's okay. That's just direction. Don't take it as a stop, a no. Take it as an opportunity to start building something that addresses the big problem that you've got in mind in a way that is not impacted by what they tell you. Anytime you hear a problem, it's an opportunity for you to start building a solution that actually addresses it. So this is part of what you'll be doing. But I want you to keep in mind this concept of starting small and building up something that can act like an animal. In engineering and in science, there's a term called biomimetics. It's an interesting idea. It's the idea of technology looking at life, looking at animals and plants to see how they solve a problem, how their species have adapted to live in their environment. Maybe an environment with little water, or an environment with scarce resources, or an environment where there's a lot of competition. Because every animal has found a way to solve those problems well enough to live where they like to live. And if we can do the same thing with our technology, to where our solutions, our projects can, for example, be monetized well enough to also help support a community, so that the people in that community have time and incentive to participate in the project. That's one way to make it work. If the project is something that anyone can participate in easily with their time, that's one way to make it work. And that's a way that you can use the power of biomimetics to make your project like an animal. You want it to be something that can feed itself, something that can compete in its environment, and something that can reproduce over time. Because if you can replicate your project, not just in your own community with everyone involved, but also in other communities, if you can talk about it online and share videos and give people the ability in other communities in other parts of the world to reach out and say, hey, I want to do something like that. How do I do it? Then you have the possibility of having your project reproduce itself globally. And that's where there's power. Once again, start small and modular and take little steps that have cumulative impact. These are things you want to keep in mind for what I'm talking about next. And this is where it really gets fun. I want you to reach out to other students, friends, family, anyone who you think will be a good component in your project, people who will be good partners, who will keep you honest. It's like working out. If you want to work out, then it's good to have a buddy to work out with, someone to help keep you accountable so that you meet your goals. So you are going to create your very own sustainability project. And any way that we can, the Time Repair Corporation will help. I want you to plan it. Start small, but plan it to be something that gets bigger as people go, that can involve people in your community, and that can identify the resources that you need to do it, potential problems that you might find along the way, and solutions to those problems. Start planning it out over a meal, you and maybe 5 other people, and think of it as something that you could start that day, today, just after you finish your meal. Maybe it's very small to start, and that's fine, but think of it as something that you want to build up over time. Now, one thing that I want you to get practice making is called a one-pager. Effectively, you will be taking one sheet of notebook paper, and you will be writing out everything that you would need to know about your project. What the problem is, how you're going to solve it, how you involve your community, how it will grow. Plan all of it out that you can and reduce it just to that one piece of paper. Now, the point of that paper is so that when you talk to someone, an adult, a teacher, a parent, a community member, a politician, someone who has more reach and deciding power when it comes to getting a hold of the resources that you might need to start your project. Maybe you need to borrow a truck once a month. You'll need to be able to talk to someone and convince them. The one-pager helps you do that. You organize your thoughts in the group so that you can talk to people about what you're doing and the change that you want to make in the world. That's the point of the one-pager. Now, last, I want to talk to you about the rules of the project. So, you want to involve your community first and foremost. That's the most important part. Start with something small. If you're a student, you have a community. The people you grew up around, the people that you study with, they are your community. When you reach out from them to their families, it becomes bigger. When you reach out and see everyone in your group, if you can organize the entire group to benefit and to be a part of the project, then you will have them all on board. Ideally, you can make use of technology, both active and passively. Now, what I mean by this is if you have access to cell phones, the internet, if you've got access to computers, if you've got access to electrical pumps that can work for water or transportation mechanisms, or even passive technologies, simple things, make sure that you understand those resources as well as you can. Learn about them and learn about how they can be used and involved in the process. That way, you can start developing something greater and stronger than just something person-powered. It's okay for it to start person-powered, but start involving community and technology. Next, as I've said, your project must sustain itself. Ideally, this is something that could grow up and become a business or a nonprofit or NGO or just a larger experience that people want to be a part of. But whatever it is, it has to be interesting enough, incentivizing enough that people involve themselves and can put in the work that is necessary in order to accomplish it. Now, it may be something simple where you collect waste and then make something out of the waste that is useful. That's great. That can potentially have economic benefits. But whatever it is, whether it's something that benefits the community immediately, or that a business can be a part of, or that people on the other side of the planet can be so excited about that they're willing to help sponsor it from overseas. However you're going to do it, it has to be able to sustain itself, both immediately, as you start today with your just 5 people, and then in a greater sense, once you've involved your community, once you've grown it into neighboring communities, it has to still be able to sustain itself. And last, you want to collaborate and craft a presentation together. We talked about the one-pager first, and as you go through our next segment, which is the lesson on cyclical systems, and our final segment, which is going to dig into more detail in how you're going to actually accomplish all of this. As you do that, we're going to talk about how you organize your ideas, how you present your ideas, so that you can craft all of this into a clear plan in a one-pager and present it easily in under 2 minutes to anyone who you would want to involve, convincingly enough that you can get their support. That's the important thing. And remember, all of this is something that you are learning for the first time now. So treat it like a game, but aim to make the impact something real and valuable. You're learning, you're going to be playing, and anyone is going to be impressed with what you can accomplish when you really put your mind to it. So, we'll find ways to practice all of that together. But for right now, what I want you to do is aim to get that group of people together. If they haven't watched the video, great, have them watch the video. If they can't watch the video, that's fine. Explain what you want to do. Explain your dream, your vision of what you want to change in the world, and who you are as a person, and what is worth your time. And ask them those 3 questions. Dig back into their emotional health. Learn about them as people, because that's the best way to craft one of these projects, is to see people coming together about things that matter to them as a group. And then build that one-pager. That's the first step. So I want you to get together with your group, maybe even if you just meet once a week, but ideally you can meet more often than that. Build the one-pager first, and then present it to some people who haven't heard of what you're doing. Talk to them about the project. Hell, share the video with them. See what it is that matters to them and how they want to be involved in the project. And you will already be on your way to what we'll be doing in the next lesson. So I hope you'll tune in and see that video as well. Section 2 of creating your own sustainable future. I want to thank you all for taking some time as students to dig into this, to dig into making things a little bit better for yourself, for your community. If you want to get your parents, your teachers, your community involved, then I want you to share this video with them. Share the parents and teachers videos as well, because I've made specific content that can help them to help you with what you're doing, so that they can not only see you grow and develop into the person who you are meant to be, but so that they can best help that process to move forward. If you think that this is something that could benefit a community that you've seen or that you know about, share it, get it out there. The entire point of Zero to Civ is that it will be an open source toolkit for education, based in part on Finnish educational practices and the best practices that we can find worldwide. So feel free to reach out to us at timerepaircorp.com or through any of our social media channels. Thank you again for taking the time. Check out our other videos, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.